Hey guys, Corey with Camel. I'm going to keep going with the suspension swap on the T7. So putting the Kiaba SSS forks in the front and then the new TFX rear shock in the back. Special day today. Should have been in Washington for the Desert 100 race, the 50th annual, which of course got canceled with the whole COVID thing. So a little bit depressing, but I let the garage working, so that's it's a good place to be. If I can't be where I want to be, then the garage is a great second best option. So we've got the new triple clamps here, upper, lower. Turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with all of that. Got a new steering stem out of 7075 aluminum. Not totally 100% sold on that yet. The 7075 versus using a steel one. We will see. Obviously, I'm testing this on my own bike, so if there's an issue, it's me that's going to get hurt, no one else. I already know there's a couple of issues with these parts. Some of the clearances are off, and I'm not sure why. So the steering stem does not slide into the lower triple like it should. Normally this is a press fit, but this is, there's two steps on here. There's this guy here, which gets pressed into the triple, and then this is the one that the bearing gets pressed into. And we're not even getting the second biggest one through the triple. So I know that either the stem got made too big, or more likely the hole in the bottom of the triple got made too small. So we're going to have to take the triples and forks off of the T7, the factory stuff, and do some measuring and figure out what happened, and then whether we need to open this up or turn that down. So we'll see what's up with that. The other thing is that as soon as I unwrapped this guy, I looked at, so I guess, the threads here. The threads are really coarse in this, and I was thinking, I don't think the axle's that coarse. And then I thought, no, you're being crazy. That is the right thread. As it turns out, it isn't. This is much coarser than we've got. I think this is 2 mil pitch, and I think we need a 1.5, 18 by 1.5, or 125. I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, so that's a pain. It's a little bit of a challenge to get around that. Either we have to drill this and put a helicoil in it. Luckily, the size of the axle is the same size and pitch as oxygen sensor, or I think big spark plug 2 is 18.5 or 1.5. So there's lots of helicoils available. Most machine shops have the tap for that. So we should be able to drill this out and then put a helicoil in, which would be awesome. If not, we're gonna have to get creative with it. But yeah, we're going to jump over to the bike and start taking off factory bits so that we can get everything measured up and sorted out. The moment of truth. Well, I already know it's not the moment of truth because I already know that it doesn't fit, but. So 30.10 millimeters on the big section here. .15, 1.4. So that's pretty damn close. 0.05 mil is like is like a human hair. So that means that this guy is wrong. So that is 30.07, 30.06. This one is 29.96. Wow. That wouldn't take very much persuading with the press to get that in there. Uh, 30.12, well, maybe not. Maybe that's too much. That's a lot, actually. Oof. Focus. Anyway. So we're looking at 9.5 thou. So yeah, a little too much for pressing action there. So this guy's a little bit big and this guy's a little bit small. Trying to figure out the best way to do this. This is easy enough to put in the lathe and turn this down to that size, as long as we get this size correct for the bearing. That one has to be on the money. So this one's 29.96 mil. So even if there's the step right here. So if we machined this section down to this size, that would be sufficient to get it in. I'm guessing that's probably what this is. So this is exactly 30 mil. Or 30 millimeters, not 30 mil. So I'll take that to the machine shop. I'll let them figure out what they want to do with it. I feel like the bearing would be just fine going on this guy at that size. It's a press fit going on, so it's still going to be a press fit. So even though this guy is a hair smaller than the factory one, this bearing still has a press on it. So for our purposes, that would be fine if we just take this off, and then we'd be able to press this into the triple. To open up that guy, either we need to set it up in the mill or make a fixture to hold it to spin it in the lathe. So it's just easier to deal with the steering stem. Now, the more annoying part is that the threads on the bottom of our lug here for the axle are not right, which sucks. Starts to thread and then stops. So it's much coarser in here than the actual axle. And like I said, I think this is 18 with a 2.0 pitch instead of 18 1.5, I believe is what this is supposed to be. So yeah, I don't have my thread gauge, but this is going to be 18 1.5, same as spark plug, same as oxygen sensor, so super common for taps, helicoils, whatever. So again, we could drill that out, helicoil it, and add that insert. The other option is to do this the same as basically all the other axles. And that would be, rather than having this here threading into this, we can drill the threads out of there The axle is not long enough to poke out the side to put a nut on there, like a regular setup. But there are some bikes like we got another 1200 GS over here, and the axle slides through, same dealio, except this is threaded on the inside, and it's an M12 175, I think. So then it's a big flange bolt. So the flange bolt would sit, why don't I just show you here. So this is the axle retainer bolt off an R1200 GS. So it's M12, and we've got enough meat on the inside there. We could drill and tap that like that, and then we can just drill the threads out of that. We can open that up to 19 mil because I don't have an 18 mil drill bit. It's not a common size. So we can open that up. And then this guy would sit on the outside like that. So that will be plan B if I get to the machine shop, if I can find a machine shop open. I'll give them those two options and we'll see which is going to be quick and easy. Yeah, everything else is pretty good. The bore on these is a C hair smaller than I would like, but totally acceptable. The upper is a little bit looser than I would like. But again, totally acceptable. So no changes required on that stuff. That all bolts together really nicely. The only other thing I need to check is the bores here. And these are for the rubber mounts where the handlebar clamps go. So we did these the same size in theory as the factory triples so that we could use the same rubber mount. So we'll have the vibration dampening setup in here, same as the factory. So I'm gonna press those out of the original triples and make sure that they're gonna go in here just in case we have to do some messing around with these. Might as well do it all in one shot at the machine shop. Taking the top triple clamp off this bike is a giant pain. It's got the steering lock with the key. Those are security bolts that hold that on. And with all the wires and everything that go to the ignition, trying to flip the triple over to do anything with those bolts is a huge pain. I tried all kinds of stuff. Tried with a Dremel, taking the head of the bolt and cutting a flat slot across it so that I could put a flat blade screwdriver on it. And I couldn't get enough bite with that because they're like red Loctited in. The ignition cylinder is right there with all the electronic stuff in there, so you can't put any heat to those bolts to soften the Loctite. So that's a huge pain. Tried to set nuts on top of them, and then if you take the MIG vice grips, you put a nut on with vice grips that are holding the nut, put the ground clamp to that, and then take your MIG gun and you can weld a nut to a bolt, and then you could back it out by grabbing the nut. And the bolts are dome, so you can't get, I couldn't get enough bite with the MIG, got it crazy hot, was worried about damaging the ignition system, the ignition cylinder, by doing that, and ended up center punching them and or taking a Dremel first and flattening it out, making a little dish, center punching it, and then drilled like 4 different sizes until I finally got them out. So they should come out a lot easier now because the factory stuff is all out, and now it's just regular bolts to hold it all together. But that is a pain in the ass. It's probably the worst part about this whole project is trying to get those stupid bolts out. So all the cables and things are stuck in here, and it's a real challenge trying to deal with these. Obviously, when you're riding the bike, it's there for a reason, and it's to keep things from getting caught and pinched and whatnot when you're riding. But when you don't even know what that was. When you're trying to work on this stuff, it is a giant pain, man. So a little baby upholstery fork or pickle fork is really helpful in here. Also taking photos of where all the wires and cables go before you start taking it apart is a good idea, because some of this stuff does not go in the orientation that you would expect it would. And then when you're trying to put it back on, it's a real challenge. The only reason I'm getting through here as quick as I just did is I was just in here. So we've got a 13 mil nut here and a bolt to hold the ignition on. I mangled one of the holes here, so I had to drill it oversized and JB weld it and put a rod in and whatever, less than ideal. Of course, I Loctited all this stuff when I put it back on too, so it's a bit of a bear to get out again. So I'm going to grab this chunk of threaded rod in the vise and get it spun out to make a little bit of room. Ooh, JB weld. Because I need to put this whole thing in the vise, or in the press I should say, so that I can press the rubber mounts out. So these guys here were the challenge, a real bear to deal with. So I keep intending to get soft jaws. I mentioned that on the last video or two. But of course nothing's open, so I can't buy them anywhere. So this is the bridged bar riser, and you can see that it's offset. This way is back. So from the factory, when you're on the bike, the bars are closer to you. They've got arrows pointing forward to show that that's the way this goes. If you want to move the bars ahead, I don't know what it would be, at least 3/4 of an inch, you can flip these, and you can get these bolts or the nuts off the bottom of these studs when it's on the bike. Just need a lot of extensions, like, I'm not even kidding, 2 feet worth of extensions, and not a full swivel, but one of the swiveling extensions. You can just get these off and get them spun around. So I'm gonna go and grab some sockets. It's the easiest way to press these out, so I'm gonna look for one that's the same size as the OD of this, and then one that is just bigger, so I can get these to start moving. These are too loose, so those are going to have to get Loctited in. If this was a male piece, we could narrow that to get a little extra material. This one might fit because I kind of caught that with the edge of the socket, so it's a little bit marked up and it's kind of a mess. That one will pound in nice. But yeah, I'm just gonna hit this with sandpaper and clean these off with brake clean, make sure there's no grease on them. And then we can put those in like so. They are captured top and bottom. There's a washer that goes over each side. Actually, what I might do is put these in the vise and take a chisel and scar these up a little bit in here. And we'll still Loctite them, but we'll build the material up just a little bit. Huh. Interesting. So when we do this, we're just dragging the chisel along the wall in here, and it makes some high spots and some low spots. So the high spots are what's going to grab. If you're ever pressing U-joints out of a drive shaft and the yokes are too loose, you slide the cap in and it moves back and forth. You can mark it up with the chisel, and it just creates some friction, keeps them from moving around. This is less than ideal. Obviously, if I'm going to do production on these, we'll have to tighten these up a little bit. That's about all we can do today. I'll get some stuff done at the machine shop, and then we can start assembling. But yeah, kind of at a standstill for the moment, so we will get back at this next week. I'm going to call this the F*** up episode, just going through all the mistakes we made while designing them. I think everything should be smooth sailing from here based on everything that I've looked at. Everything else looks good, so we should be able to get things together quite quickly once I get bits and pieces back from the machine shop. Thanks for watching. Check us out next week. Bye.